Welcome to Kolel Avat Israel. Bruchim Abayim. Welcome. We are today doing our class in English for Genesis Berashit, the first parasha of the Torah. And Baruch Hashem, we want to first and foremost, as usual, we want to thank our sponsors, Mr. and Mrs. Selwyn Isakov, partners in Torah. Baruch Hashem, we merit to have a wonderful year. Last year with Partners in Torah, this is our fourth or fifth year with Partners in Torah. We, Baruch Hashem, managed to help and be part of some amazing, great thing that we teach Torah in 1,500 cities around the world. Baruch Hashem, אנחנו רוצים להגיד תודה לאדון וגברת סלווין אייסקו, שותפים לתורה. אנחנו ברוך השם זכינו לעבוד איתם וללמד וללמוד יחד 4-5 שנים כבר בכמעט 1,500 ערים בכל העולם, כל שבוע. Again, we want to thank all our other sponsors. We want to thank everybody that's been working with us and helping us and studying with us. We want to thank all of you for being online with us and, of course, for sharing the class with everybody. God bless you. We really appreciate that. It's very, very important that we all together spread Torah this year. This is according to a lot of the sages, this is the year of redemption, the year of Yeshua, Be'ezat Hashem. And as usual, we want to say Refuah Shlema to everybody. Refuah Shlema Be'ezat Hashem to all the people that need Refuah Shlema in Israel, all over the world. Refuah from the Corona, Be'ezat Hashem. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu merit us to have this year, Be'ezat Hashem, a year of Yeshua and Refuah. Okay, so today we start with Genesis. As I mentioned before, Bereshit is the first parasha of the Torah, but I want to give a little bit of insight to what is really the Torah and what is the world that we live in. So, as usual, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to create the world, we have to understand something amazing. The world that we live in today, it was not the only world that was created. Science is finally catching up with what we call science is catching up with the Torah. The Holy Zohar Kadosh, which is the Kabbalah, that explain a lot of the secrets of the Torah. Because the Torah itself, first and foremost, existed a lot before this world exists, 974 generations. The Gemara says in Traket Shabbat on page 88-2 that the Torah really existed 974 generations. And when a God decided to create this world that we live in, he actually looked at the Torah and created the world. So first, when God says Bereshit, the word Bereshit encompasses the entire 613 mitzvot that we have. It also encompasses the entire creation as far as every event that happened in the past, that happens in the present, it will happen in the future. Any and all names in the world, events, everything is included within the word Bereshit. The Zohar Kadosh, the Kabbalah, has three main volumes that explain just the word Bereshit. There's 70 chapters that explain what's the word Bereshit. So Bereshit, if we can dive in a little bit about the code of the Hebrew letters. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when God created the Torah, it was actually a Torah that was not printed on, what we have today, for an example, lamb skin or a cow skin or a deer skin called gevil, or on paper or on tablets, electronic tablets or anything like that. The Torah was written, the Zohar Kadosh says, it was a black fire on white fire. Now, we want to understand a little bit before this world. What happened before our world? Our world that we live in today, Earth, Kadur Haaretz, is actually, its age, it's 5,781 years. That's when God created. We just went to Rosh Hashanah, right? Rosh Hashanah was the completion of the world. That was what we call Aleph Betishrei, which is the word Bereshit. The word Bereshit, if you rearrange the letter, is Aleph Betishrei. God created this world starting on the 25th of Elul, 6 days before Rosh Hashanah, and it was ready on Rosh Hashanah. Now, when God says Bereshit, what's Bereshit? So I'll give you some example of the proof that the Torah existed before our world. The word Bereshit, if you rearrange the letters, we know we don't have vowels in the Torah. If you ever look at the Torah, if you went to an aliyah, you got an aliyah to read in the Torah. If you're a Kohen, a Levi, Israel, whatever the case may be, you will never see vowels in the Torah, right? The Torah is written without vowels. The vowels really define the word by one meaning. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed to us through our sages, through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, through the Tanaim, the Amorites, through all our sages, through Rashi, through Onkelos, through all the sages that we have, the secrets of the Torah. To some he gave more, to some he gave less. For an example, Moshe Rabbeinu was the first prophet that Hashem gave the entire Torah to. Before that, he gave Adam Arishon a little bit of that. Before the sin, Adam knew everything. After the sin, Adam was limited by its sight. We'll get to it in a minute. But the Torah, when God says Bereshit, it encompasses, I'll give you some examples of how many things that's just in the word Bereshit. The word Bereshit in Hebrew, Yereh Shabbat. Keep the Shabbat. It's Saberit, do the Brit Milah. It also an acronym for Brit Milah is Ben Rishon Acharei Shmona Yamim Timol. Your first son, or any son for this matter, should be circumcised after 8 days, on the 8th day. The word Bereshit is Aleph Betishrei, Rosh Hashanah. The word Bereshit is Bet Reshit, two worlds, this world and the heaven. The word Bereshit is Shetavri, so you be healthy. When you deal with Torah, most likely you'll be much healthier. The word Bereshit has all the relationship that has to do with marriage. The word Sa, to marry. There is Eshet, a wife, Ish, a husband, man. The word Shabbat is in it. The word, as we mentioned, and we'll mention again, for an example, Bara, Shemo, Yidbarach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything. The word Bereshit has the word Har, everything that has to do with, the Torah that we're given on Mount Sinai. The word Bereshit also has many codes in the numerical code of the Bereshit. The Torah itself is not just letters. For an example, if you look at the Torah as a whole, it's a combination of codes that today science is catching up with. For an example, the entire understanding of the formula of pi, 3.14 and so on and so forth, is just from the word Bereshit. The word Bereshit will also mean, for an example, bara, right? Hashem created. What he created? Shamayim, right? Eretz and Torah. God created the heaven and earth and Torah. First, God created, it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et. First, God created et. What's et? Et in Hebrew means many things, but a couple of things, for an example, is Aleph through Taf. First, God created the letters. The Zohar Kadosh bring that the letters were the tools in order to create everything. Because, Hashem, when he created the world, he just spoke. He used the Hebrew letters, Sfat HaKodesh, 22 letters. And he says, let it be light. Yehi or, Yehi shamayim, Yehi aretz, Yehi choshech, Yehi deshe, Yehi, everything with words created in 10 ma'amarot, in 10 commandments, Hashem created the world. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Bereshit bara et, what's it? As we mentioned, is Aleph through Taf. Everything that comes, everything they can think of, any item, any subject, any matter, any feeling, anything that you can think of that's in between the letters Aleph through Taf and its combination, which is infinite, really, in a sense, is in the word et. So first God created et. Elohim bara et. Et also means otiyot and Torah. He created the Torah first. Now, science always trying to really disagree with the Torah, and at the end, they're actually finding themselves to be foolish. You know, when the Zohar Kadosh explained to us what's et, what does it mean et? God created et. Et is an acronym for Elef Tevel, meaning God created 1,000 worlds before our world. And they explain that, you know, everything that you see in the galaxies, for an example, all those so-called, you know, Earth-like stars and galaxies, they look very much like a world that used to be a world, right? They always said there's sign of water there, there's sign of life there, there's all kinds of signs. So yes, actually, Kadosh Baruch Hu created 1,000 worlds before our world, and none of them wanted to receive the Torah. And by creating these worlds, he actually diminished them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Gemara says, that he actually bana elef olamot v'chervan. Kadosh Baruch Hu created those 1,000 worlds and he destroyed them. Only when he created this world, he understood that he has, Kadosh Baruch Hu originally judged all the world. There was one attribute that he used to create. It was the attribute of judgment. And needless to say, when the people that he created in the world that he created did not want to receive the Torah, because remember, the whole world stands by the Torah and according to the Torah and by the merit of the Torah. And when he created this world, he foresaw that there'll be people, the Jewish people, that would receive the Torah. And we see that the word Beresheit is also an acronym. Bereshit ra Elohim sheYisrael yekablu Torah. He saw, and then he added another attribute to this creation, the attribute of mercy. So when God says Bereshit bara Elohim et, there are many, many, many things for it. For an example, we mentioned there is no vowels in the Torah. Why? Because you can rearrange every letter. Our sages will explain to us that there is 70 facets to the Torah. There are 70 faces to each word of the Torah. And each word of the Torah has 4 levels of understanding. It's called Pardes in Hebrew, orchard, like. The Pardes is an acronym, Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. The simplicity, you know, Pshat, if you rearrange the letters, Tipesh, foolish. When somebody just reads the Torah and not really dives into it, it really is considered foolish. Because, you know, you cannot really understand the Torah but just by reading the Torah. The Torah is most likely, in our terms, is like a PowerPoint. Those are the bullets. But you have to go deep into each understanding what really the Torah means when God says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. You know, the program Windows, I don't know if you know, but it's originated in Israel. Why they call it Windows? A window, you know, was used in the Torah several times. A computer-like site in the future. It was used by Avimelech, you know, when he was spying on Yitzchak and Rivka. It was used later on with Balak ben Tzipor, and later on it was used by the mother of Sisera. Windows, it's all of them. You know, a window is something that you open to look at something else, right? Every time you click on the computer, you have one window. Then you click on that, you have more window. There is subdivision, there is files and folders and understanding, you know. This is really the Torah, has many, many windows. So we know that if you have 4 levels of understanding, from the basic to the secret, and you take that 4 times 70, it's 280. It's really the word rachaf. When a Kadosh Baruch Hu spirit were hovering over the water, is the 280. You know, there's 280 understanding to each word in the Torah. So when God created et. After you created this et, what's et as we mentioned? You rearrange the letter, it will be ta. Ta means a cell. Cell in our body, each cell, which revealed, by the way, also already in the Zohar and the Kabbalah, that a cell is really the signature of God in every creation. So, today if you ask a scientist that deal with DNA, can you create a whole person from one cell? The answer will be yes, you can. Every cell has the entire genetic makeup of creation of a human or any other. It depends where it comes from. But every cell of every kind has the entire genetic makeup of every creation. For one cell has all the opening to each door opens to a different part of our body. And it's called in English DNA. DNA, to many of people that would know, it has like two heliuses that has a connecting, like a bridge, like a ladder, like the ladder of Jacob in his dream. It's connecting in a certain frequencies that's actually in the frequencies of the name of God, which every Yud K Vav K is the letter of God, one of the names. And that's every DNA has the sequencing and distance, and of course I'm talking in nano measurement, of every 10, every 5, every 6, every 5. If a person is sick, one of those connectors is broken, sometimes more. And when you look at the DNA, you'll understand quickly that this is the signature of God. Adonai in Hebrew is DNA in English. If you write DNA in Hebrew, it becomes Adonai, God. It's really the signature of God in every cell. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the cell, he says, Shamayim, first God created Et HaShamayim, the heavens, so to speak, the spiritual part, Ve'et Haaretz, and the material part. Every cell is very much like our world, and every person is a world in its own. For an example, if you look at the cell has 72% liquid and 28% matter. If you take our world, it has 72% liquid and 28% matter, Earth. Why 72 and 28? One of the name of Hashem is 72 names, 72 letters. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to speak to the people of Israel on Mount Sinai, it says Hashem diber alehem ba'av, and God spoke to them with Ayin Bet, with 72, with the name of 72. 72, as we know, is also, as we mentioned, the same amount both between the cell and the world, liquid. And when you look at the cell, you see that the 28 matter. Why 28? 28 is strength in Hebrew, koach. To show you that, first God created a spiritual part, which is more and much bigger than you think in comparison to your physical part. The spiritual part has no limits. Our neshama, the shamayim, what's neshama? Neshama is come from Hashem, right? The name of God in it. Hashem Natan, God gave. We created mankind. He first created it from the earthly matter, right? The Zohar Kadosh will tell us that actually the original Adam, the first Adam before the sin, was heavenly. It was not a person like. The person that God created originally was the perfect creation, Nezer HaBeriah and Netzer HaBeriah. It was the most important, most beautiful, most divine creation that when God put the neshama in it, Vayipach Nishmato, Vayhi Lenefesh Chaya, when Adam rose after receiving the particle of God, the entire world bowed to him, the angels, the animals, they all thought it was God. And he says, no, Adonai Hu Elohim, God is the really God. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'Olam Vayed, we all bless him. That was Adam before the sin, and he understood everything. He gave names to all anything in creation. He gave name to all the animals. And when God created the heavenly part, we understand that in the physical part, the earthly part, Hashem gave us limits. Our body or anything for that matter, anything that has a matter is temporary. Everything, every subject and every object and everything that has matter will always have six sides to it. It would have what we call the acronym of news, north, east, west, and south, and will have up and down, right? Every subject. If you look at a person, you look at a phone, you look at a TV, you look at a can of soda, you would look at anything that has six dimensions. It's really the 6 days of creation. And all of it has temporary, what we call expiration date. That's why the body called goof. Goof come from the word pug, that will be ending. The Zohar Kadosh bring to us that everything that is a matter has life in it. We just don't see it in our, what we call, limited sight because of the sin of Adam and Chava and the snake and the earth. But everything has, as we know, atoms and neutrons and protons, that moves at such high speed that, your eye is limited due to the sin. You don't really see it. Today we have the right tools, the right microscopes, the right everything to see. So in essence, if you look at the first verse of the Torah, it's really the entire creation from everything that we can fathom today and understand today. And if you look at this, it has 7 words. Beresheit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God's creating the heaven and earth, right? In Hebrew, it has 7 words and has 28 letters. It's speaking of the 7 days, which we have, including the Shabbat, and the strength that God put in everything that He put in this world. So we see that, in the first day, God, the Torah writes, "Ve'aretz hayta tohu vavohu ve'choshech al penei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim." So our sages will teach us so many amazing things about this sentence, but in just a very small way to look at it. There was 8 things were created in the first day. Many people think that the first day was just the light. Vayehi or, let it be light. That was part of the first day, right? And God, on the first day, really took this amazing chaos and set orders in it. Because, tohu vavohu, it says that really Hashem look at the world. It says this earth that is about to receive the Torah is about to receive an order. In order to create light, the Zohar Kadosh says that God took a very small particle of the, what we call Oraganus, the endless light from the heavens, and He actually brought it down to our world in order to establish clarity and to create everything. Everything comes from the word light. Or, right? Or is also Re'u, look, see. It gives you the ability to see. And it's called Oraganus. This is the concealed light that God brought to this world in order to set order in this world. So in essence, what God did is giving us fullness that came. How do we know that fullness, the light, came before anything else? You can only feel that you're missing something because you were full before, right? If you're full, you ate something. As time goes by, you're less full, right? You're hungry. You need to feel, or your emotion, or your feelings, or chaz v'chalila, if you don't feel good, you have to do a lot of things in order to fulfill to that fullness that was restored in the world, in our world, 5,781 years ago. In essence, the word or is also in Hebrew avir, right? Oxygen. We breathe today, and we never thank God for a moment for this amazing ability to breathe. We don't see it, right? If you look, can you see the oxygen? No. God, the way He created the world in such an amazing, perfect unison, that sometimes when people just stop to look for one thing, just look at the light. When God separated the light and the darkness on the first day, He did two things. He did, first and foremost, He brought the understanding that everything will need light to survive. But remember, even though when it's dark, when it'll be the darkest places in your career or your life or your world, there will always be light. Because that's what's created first. Among the 8 things that God created in the first day, that's the last thing He brought in order to define the day. Right? The day is 24 hours. So God separated 12 hours of light and 12 hours of day. It's 24 altogether. Why 24? First and foremost, if you look at the galaxies and if you understand the rotation of what we call our closest galaxies in relation to the sun, you'll see that the Earth rotates 24,000 miles a day. Every hour is 1,000 miles and 4 miles. And it rotates around itself, and it takes 12 hours on a perfect day, so to speak, for the sun to reveal and for the darkness to be revealed. And it's always rotating in a way that it gives you the exact positioning for the world to survive with oxygen. If you look at the sun in relation to the earth, it's very interesting. The word shemesh, sun, is 640 in numerical code. The earth radius is 64,000 kilometers, 6,400 kilometers. That's the radius of the world. And the distance between the earth and the sun is 640,000 kilometers from the sun. Now the world has a tilt. The world is an ox, right? The axis of the world is almost 24 degrees. And it's in a way allow the world to have the perfect amount of oxygen, 21%. If the world will move less than, the eighth of an inch, the whole world either be frozen or burned. Because what makes fire go stronger? Oxygen. It had more oxygen, the earth will be torched completely. If it had less, it will be frozen completely. So by looking at just the way Hashem created our world, we understand that the word light is really something that illuminate everything in our life, our own existence. If you look at a plant, in order for a plant to have its greenery, to have the green effect, it comes from only light. The chloroforms that's created in the plants is in order to emit enough oxygen for us to breathe. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. God created everything from day one for us to be able to maintain the entire existence with Torah. How do we know that the whole Torah was specifically given to the people of Israel? It says that the first word is Bereshit and the last word of the Torah is Israel. Anything in between is for us. We're the only people that received the Torah out of choice and kept it until today. None of the other nations existed that were back then. Today, when you look at Egypt or Greek or any of the nation that's mentioned in Parashat Noach on chapter 10, you will see those are not the same people. There was a king, one king that came to the world and decided to do something that no other king did. It was King Sancheriv. His name, Sancheriv. He actually destroyed the world. What did he do? He took the entire population of the world and uprooted them from their own countries and put them in different countries. He understood something that defines him as one of the kings that rule the world. There's 10 kings who ruled the world. Sanherib was one of them. King David was one, King Solomon, Pharaoh, Ahasuerus. He did that, Sanherib, in order to achieve the ultimate win, because people that's uprooted from their own land and placed in a different land will never fight for that land as much as they fight for their own. So in reality, all the nations that we see today, none of them exist anymore from the Torah, except the Jewish people. And the land of Israel was given to the Jewish people in the Torah from day one. The whole creation started in Jerusalem. When God created the world, he started exactly where the Temple Mount is. From the stone that's called Even Hashtia, this is the foundation stone, the Tashtit. This is the foundation stone that everything started there and spread to the entire world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that after he separated between the light and darkness, it's really separating between the Jewish people and the non-Jewish people. When God says, Vayavdel Elohim ben ha'or hu ben ha'choshech, between the light and the darkness. People that have no Torah in their life are filled with darkness. Choshech, it's something that actually limiting you. When you have a dark life, when you have even at night, when you walk in the dark, you don't see. You're limited by your sight. You have zero visibility to distance. Right? If you walk in a very dark place that has none of the light, if I put you in a room that's completely dark, you cannot even see an inch before you. But when you just flicker the light, the switch, all of a sudden the whole darkness disappears. The light gives you the ability to define right and wrong. The people of Israel, they understood that in order to receive and maintain this light, they have to have the Torah. Torah is light. Why do we light a candle, right, for somebody's passing or for Shabbat? It's really to define the light of the Torah. Nefesh and Ruach, that's what the Torah brings. In the spiritual part and your livelihood. When a person is far from Torah, most likely you'll see they have chaos in their life. No matter how much money they have, no matter how rich they are, no matter what, people that's rich will tell you it doesn't give them solace, no peace, no, actually more worries. People that have Torah in their life, they're very calm, they're happy, they understand that really it's all in the hands of God, and we given the tools to be able to receive this kind of blessings from God. Torah is or, Torah is light. So the first day is really Hashem define everything. And it says Mavdil, the light. He called it or karayom. To the light he called a day, and to the evening, what we call lachoshech kara laila. You know, Satan's wife named Lilit. As we know, that was the first portion of Adam Arishon that was created with the male and female part. The female part went with Satan. That's why when God created the second Chava, the second woman for Adam, Adam said, now this is a good one. This is part of, me. Meaning that, I originally was all light. Because, when God created mankind, it was all light. Only after the sin, it was diminished. And God wrote in the Torah, Vayas lahem kuton ta'or. God created skin for them. Or is from the word blind, Eiver. Ein vav resh. Before or, Re'u, they could see anything and everything and understand everything that they saw. Now we are limited by our sight. Speaking of the light, the speed of light is 186,000 miles in a second. light and sound is the only highest speeds that we can measure. Combining the two of them, you create a tool that's called ultrasound that's give you an image. That's what they use, in technical and medical devices. They use the power of light and the power of sound. Combined, it gives you an image and things that you don't see, like a woman. When they check her pregnancy, they use that. Why? Because it's the only two powerful forces that has no radiation. Or when we are listening to God, the call, when God spoke, it says, "Vayar'u et hakolot." They saw the voice. Vayar'u come from the word light. Those words were lit up, and people can see. The people of Israel receiving the Torah could see the words that God was speaking. Today we don't have this ability, of course. Needless to say, by the way, there's a software that's called an oracle, right? Or and call. So we see here that when we say Hakol Kol Yaakov, the voice is the voice of God. Yaakov is really speaking of the voice of God. Because Yaakov, as we know, changed to Israel. Why Israel? Israel is the only name that has all our forefathers' acronym in it and mothers, needless to say. Yaakov is Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rachel, Rivka, Avraham, Leah. They have all the names, acronym in the name Israel. We are the children of Israel from our forefathers. And when God separated between the light and darkness, is really separation between the Jews and the Gentile. Not that there's anything wrong with the Gentile, even they are obligated by the 7 Noahide laws. And as we know, the 10 Commandments, when God gave the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments has 620 letters in it. There is 613 of what we call the mitzvot of the Jewish people. Among them, there is the 7 Noahide laws, and there is the 7 mitzvot of the right of the Rabbanan, of the what we call our sages that brought. So altogether 620. And when you keep those 620, you have what we call Keter. Keter is the numerical code of 620. It's also the word Shishi, Friday, for keeping Shabbat. You have the crown. Otherwise, you will have a corona, right? Crown is corona in Spanish. What kind of crown do you want? With a virus or without a virus? The second day, by the way, the first day called Echad, not Rishon, not like we have today. Echad means one, alluding that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he started the world, as our sages will teach us, that every letter came to complain to Hashem, not to complain, but to really make a case that they should be the first letter to be used. From Taf, the last, to the beginning. And at the end, Bet was chosen because it's 2. It takes 2 for everything. When God created even the first 2 things, Berashit bara et, right? He took the Aleph and through Taf, everything in the between. And he took the letter Bet, is come from the word bracha. Bet is also numerical 2. If you look at the letter Bet, it's combination of 2 lines, above and below, and there is a connecting line, meaning that, heaven and earth, the above and below, has to work together in order to exist. And the letter Aleph never complained. The Midrash tell us that never ever the letter Aleph came and stated her case to say, I should be the first. I'm at first, Aleph. And Hashem says, how come you're not arguing like all the other letters? And the letter Aleph said, if you already chose, why would I debate that? Meaning that if God chose the Torah for us, why do we argue with the Torah? We are the only nation in the world that argue with the Torah. 94% of the world understand that there is God and Torah. We, the Jewish people, 63% argue with the Torah every day. And we are the chosen people. We are the people that chose to receive the Torah. Yet we are the one that argue with it a lot and define the Torah. And we see the chaos that comes upon Israel today. It's only because of that. So Hashem was so, in the Hebrew words that translate to English, was very impressed with the letter Aleph. And he says, because of that, I will use you for the 10 Commandments. When I give the Torah, I will use the first letter will be Anochi Hashem. Aleph will be the first. By the way, Aleph is also Aleph, meaning 1,000 world. God created those 1,000 worlds with the letter Aleph. And Aleph, if you look at it, is really, in numerical code, is the name of Hashem. Yud, there is 2 Yuds, and Vav, this is 26. And God says also, I will use the Aleph when Moses will come and ask me on Mount Sinai at the burning bush, what should I tell them? Who are you? And God says, Eheye asher eheye. I'll be whatever you want me to be. Meaning that I'm everything and anything at any time, at any space. Everything is God. And the Aleph will be used again when King David will write his Tehillim. The first letter will be Aleph, Ashrei. So the first day really encompasses everything that we need to understand from the word Bereshit and God's and our purpose and our job coming to this world to do. Is really to get close as possible to this light. That's why it says, Or Zarua la Tzadik. The light is actually, it's been concealed and hidden for the tzaddikim, meaning the person that's closest to Hashem will be able to see this concealed light one day. Otherwise, it will be choshech, it will be darkness, heaven and earth, and hell, so to speak. On the second day, God's really separating between the water, and we see that the second day has not good in it. It doesn't say Vayar Hashem ki tov. In all the days, Hashem says good, twice on Tuesday, because Monday did not have good. The water above and the water below were fighting. And only Hashem promised to the water below that he will be using them 1.5 gallons once a year will be used for Sukkot. It's called Simchat Beit HaShoeva. There will be water that will be used. It's 1.5 gallons to be used on the korbanot, the sacrifice in the temple on Sukkot. Only then the water agreed to Hashem, define their placements in the firmament and on earth. And Hashem also promised the water that they will do a miracle for the people of Israel when they come out of Egypt, and the water will basically restore to its original. Vayashev hayam le'eitano. Will come to its original stage after doing the miracle for the people of Israel. And that day, as we know, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw, he put rakia, he put what we call, in our terms today, is the shamayim, the sky. You know, shamayim is actually 2 forces, esh and maim, fire and water. And by combining those 2, Hashem created peace among them, and he put rakia. Rakia comes from the word reka, meaning that this is something you would see, but it's not really what you're seeing. You know, when you look at the skies, during the day you see blue. It's not really blue. You know, it's, if you go out to space a little bit, you'll see that it's actually completely dark out there. This light that God created in the first day gives the opportunity and the illusion for the prism of light to break this kind of light onto reflecting the world, the water of the world. The blue is a reflection, right? For an example, if you look at water, you know, you look at the sea, you think it's blue or gray or green, whatever the case may be. But really, if you lift the water in your hand, you'll see that's clear water. It's really a reflection of the prism of the light that God created. It's not the same light that we have today. And we'll get to it in a minute. But in reality, water, if I gave you water and I said, why don't you drink a water? What is it? You look at it, it says water. I'll give you a glass, a clear glass. And you say, what do you see? It's full of water. And you'll say, water. This is a very limited sight that we have today. But in reality, if you took this water, you took one drop out of it, and you put it under a very powerful microscope, you'll see that there's a whole zoo in there. There is unbelievable amount of living things in it. Hashem did chesed with us, we cannot see it. But those are microbes and all kinds of things that helps us survive from the water. If you saw what's in it, you'll never touch it again. But again, Hashem did mercy with us. He gave us limited sight just to be able to survive. So again, the second day got separated between. Comes the third day, and Hashem, after separating, by the way, they say that the angels were created on Monday, and also heaven and hell was created on Monday. There's a couple other understanding, but that's the most of our sages say that. And when God separated on Tuesday, the earth and the water, if you notice closely that there was one earth, there was not 7 continents. One land, Vaikrala, Yabasha. Yabasha in Hebrew means something dry. That basically was one unit. Only 1600 years later, 1656 to be exact, when the flood happened, the Mabul of Noah, then the water above and the water below collided again. The magma and the lava and everything that comes from the bottom of the earth, the core of the earth, those very, very boiling water, and the water above collided, and the earth broke to 7 pieces. Sheva Yabashot. The Zohar that was written 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says there are 7 continents. You know, he didn't have any spaceships or any boats or anything like that. He was hiding in a cave, and he revealed to the world that there is 7 continents. They ask him, how do you know? He says, that's what my father told me, speaking of God. So we see that in reality, science just coming to 500 years ago, they only discovered 3 continents. But then the 4th, about 100 some years ago, they discovered the last one, the 7th one. This is the Kabbalah telling us 2,000 years ago, there are 7 continents. Until Noah, there was not. There was one land, Yabasha. And as we know, on Tuesday, God planted the world. Every tree, every bush, everything like that. But none of it gave fruit. Only after Adam Arishon was created, only then every fruit and every tree was bearing fruit. In the old days, in the days of heaven, before the sin, everything in the world was providing food. If you took an apple off the tree, immediately a new apple will come up. There was no process of, that was after the curse. But before that, every tree you could eat from. That's what God says. When he placed Adam in heaven, he says, look, it's all the trees you can eat from anything. One tree don't eat from. We'll get to it in a minute. And he says here, ותוצא הארץ דשא עשב מזריע זרע למינו ועץ עושה פרי אשר זרעו בו למינו. So everything had fruit in it. Every seed, everything like that. You know the word seed in English, what seed? It's sod, secret. You know, if you look at any seed, you take a seed, it's really, you can learn just from a seed the resurrection of the dead. If you plant one seed of an orange, right? 5, 10 years later, you'll have thousands, if not, hundreds or thousands of oranges from one little tiny seed. Same thing with a person, right? There's a speck of a seed that you can't even see in the naked eye, and all of a sudden you have a whole person. When people that not so strong on faith and understanding of creation and God and the Torah, they don't believe in the resurrection of the dead. Look at agriculture. It's really a resurrection of the dead. You can take seed that's been dead and dormant for years. All you have to do, put it in the ground, a little bit of water, that's it. All of a sudden it comes up. In reality, this is the secrets of seed. Even in English, they call it seed. Why? Because it has sod in it. There's a secret. Very interesting. Sod in Hebrew is 70. 70 is really the 70 facets to the Torah. For each word, every letter. Every word in the Torah, if you rearrange, for an example, maybe you know, but if not, I'll just mention that. If you take the 5 books of Torah, right, you have Beresheit, the first one. If you take the letter Taf from the word Bereshit, the last letter of the word Bereshit, and count every 50 letters, it would spell the word Torah. Every 50 letters. Count every 50, you'll see Taf, Vav, Resh, Hey. Taf, Vav, Resh, Hey. Every 50 letters. Same thing with the book of Shmot. If you take the book of Shmot, right, and you count Exodus, if you count from the Taf, the word Shmot, the last letter is Taf. You count every 50 letters, you spell the word Torah. In the middle, we have Vayikra, right? Leviticus. Vayikra, if you take the word Vayikra and you take from the word Yud, right, which is the name of God, Yud, right? You count every 7 letters, you'll be Yud Hey Vav Hey. Every 7 letters in the book of Vayikra. God's name in every 7 letters. Now, if you take the other 2, we'll go from the back, which is Deuteronomy, Devarim. And you go to the first Taf and you count 50 letters, you'll see Torah again. Same thing with the book of Numbers, Devarim. Every 50 letters from the first letter Taf, it will spell Torah. It's really, in essence, it's like a menorah with 5 kanim, right? With 5 facets. The Torah in 4 of them, and in the middle is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the letter of God. Now, no human can write such thing. No human can even fathom to write a book and place the Torah in every 50 letters, the name of God every 7 letters, and still make sense. This is a divine book that was given only to the Jewish people, no other person. When you come to any other religion, God promised there will always, forever, because God offered the Torah to all nations. Only the Jewish people were willing to accept it. God promised every other nation that will come in the future and say that I gave them Torah, they will lie, it will be fake, and they will always be alone. There will be no witnesses. If you took all religion creation from day one, Islam, Christianity, first came Christianity, of course, then Islam, or any Jehovah Witness, all of those, they never, ever, ever have witnesses. Always one person. That's what God promised. So, in essence, God says twice on Tuesday. That's why it's very good to do if you start a new venture, a business, or anything like that. Start it on Tuesday. There's twice as good. And of course, we know on Wednesday, God created what we call the moon, the sun, and the stars. Originally, the moon and the sun were the same size. It says meorot, even, equal. But then, as we know, our sages will teach us that the moon complained, and she said, why? We cannot have 2 kings. And as we know, she was punished and reduced to a crescent. And then she did tshuva, and she became full on the 15th. But amazingly, the Zohar says that forever and ever, the sun will never see the moon only full. Never see the moon at her lowest. NASA finally, I think maybe 70 some years ago, understood that Because the rotation that God made the moon moves around the sun, at any viewpoint throughout the 365 days, the sun will always see the moon full. Hashem did not want to, chas v'chalila, hurt her feelings, so to speak. That's why he accepted her tshuva and she's back full every 15. That's why we do all our holidays on the 15th. Right? All our holidays, Sukkot, Purim, Tu B'Shvat, Pesach, every holiday except Hanukkah is on the 15th. Is a full tshuva. That's when the moon is full. And as we know, the moon gets the sun from, the moon gets its lights. She gets the light from the sun. Speaking of like husband and wife, even they say that Moshe Rabbeinu was the sun and Joshua was the moon. We'll continue on as we know, on the Wednesday, by the way, is the only day is a mitzvah to do any simcha you can do for Torah. Bar mitzvah, wedding, anything like that. It's good to do on Wednesday because Wednesday is the only day that has no Torah before it. Every other day of the week has Torah, right? You have, for example, Tuesday has Monday before it, there's Torah. Sunday has Shabbat before it, right? Friday has Thursday before it, but Wednesday has no Torah before. It's a big mitzvah to do Simchat Torah, anything to celebrate mitzvot on Wednesday. Continue on Thursday, as we know, God created all that what we call nefesh chaya lemina, as we say, it says, the birds and the fish and everything like that. And hataninim agdolim, by the way, taninim gdolim, those are the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were, and as an evidence, as we know, even the Gemara bring us few occasions. David HaMelech once climbed on a mountain thinking that it was a mountain, and it was a giant dinosaur that started moving. Dinosaur is not an English word. It's actually a Greek word. It's two words, dinosaur, a giant lizard. And we know Hashem created everything, and he left for us evidence. Those what we call that were found, bones that like a size of a, whatever a dinosaur may be. It's not like because it was from another world. This world is just after the flood, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the flood of Noah, remember we mentioned it was lava below and freezing above. And if you take a bone today and you put it in lava and you take it to cold water, within minutes, an hour, it becomes stone. It becomes mubanim, fossils. So really, in reality, when God drained the world, all the fossils, those giant bones, basically, they were destroyed. The dinosaurs were destroyed in the flood. It's not like millions of years ago. It's literally, over 4,000 years ago. 1656 to the Jewish count. So continue on Friday. As we know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam and Eve. And of course, we know that when God created Adam and Eve, Hashem says, it's very disturbing, so to speak, for people to, defy the Torah and say something like this. Because if you look on it's very interesting why it's on, even the location of each sentence in the Torah give us a lot of secrets. For an example, it says in first chapter, Aleph, which is Aleph, Elohim. In verse 26, what's 26? Is Elohim, Kavav, right? Yud Ke Vav Ke. Vayomer Elohim na'aseh Adam b'tzalmenu kedmutenu. So God speaks in plural. Says speaks to many. Says let's make mankind in our own image. Here we see the humility of God. Even though God is the creator of everything, he actually talks to all creation, because until that moment everything was created. And when Hashem was about to create what we call the jewel of creation, mankind, he actually consulted with all the angels, he consulted with the animals, he consulted with the Torah, he consulted with everybody. Remember, the Torah was really the blueprint of the world. When God created the world, he looked at the Torah and he created everything. That's what the Gemara tells us. And when God was about to create the jewel of the creation, he consulted with everybody. meaning to show us that even if you are the king, if you're the principal, if you're the rabbi, whatever you are, the leader, the prime minister, the president, it's good to console with your, people that can attribute and give you, contribute to the final process of decision, because then you'll have everything in mind. And God, he took a lot of their advice and he created mankind with all the abilities of the world. Every mineral that's in the world is inside mankind and human. Liquid, iron, gold, lead, greenery, everything, desert, water, everything. But he also took character traits from animals. Today we see, like, you can say a person is fast like a deer, or is a fox, be careful, or chaz v'chalila, deceiving like a snake, or strong like an ox. Why do we have all these names? This is really character traits that animals contribute to creation of mankind. But if you move a little bit forward, we'll see that even though he consulted with all of them, God created everything by himself. We cannot really say by himself. There's no, Hashem doesn't have him or her, or it's not even defined by anything that we can understand. We're just saying that in order for us to have attribute to his power and awe that's endless. He says, Vayivra Elohim et Adam betzalmo. It moved to a singular form, meaning that only God created mankind in his image. Betzelem Elohim barauto. So this is really, what's Tzelem Elohim? Our Zohar will tell us Tzelem Elohim is really the neshama. When God created mankind, he took something from him and put it into us. Meaning he gave us the godly ability to be as close to him as possible. Today mankind can do things that if I told you 4,000 years ago you can be in space, or you can take a heart from a dead person and put it into a live person and the heart would work. Or I can tell you can send a picture in WhatsApp from here to anywhere in the world with its split second, they'll get it there. You don't see it in the air, right? You see it on your phone. You send a video. WhatsApp in Hebrew is makara, me Hashem kara. There's nothing happened without Hashem. So in essence, when God created mankind, he gave him the godly ability to be as close to him as possible, with limitation. When God created the whole world, everything was getting ready for mankind. Nothing was at its fullest until Adam Arishon rose and became a living thing. As I mentioned before, it was all light. There was no skin. There was nothing of this matter. It was all godly. Only after the sin was Adam reduced to what we are today. They say that the original Adam, as we know, was very godly. He saw the whole world end to end, meaning not just in the physical way, but also in the spiritual way. And he saw everything that's possibly, when God gave Adam the ability to do anything he wanted, Adam named all the animals. The names that we have today for animals all came from Adam Arishon. When Hashem says, I'm giving you, I'm placing you in charge of the whole world. The worst kind of anything that could be the most dangerous thing is mankind. Why? Because it has a godly ability for good and bad. Sometimes Hashem chanun v'rachum, sometimes Hashem ish milchama, sometimes God is forgiving and merciful, sometimes a war God. Meaning that, until the sin, God gave only good. But when the sin happened, we brought in darkness. When Adam and Eve, it's very interesting. When God says to Adam, they were naked, right? Meaning that they didn't see that they were naked in a sense. They had no need for clothes. When Adam and Eve sinned, what's Adam? It's the first letter, Elohim and Dam, meaning God and blood, meaning the nefesh. The nefesh reside within the blood. That's why we're not allowed to eat blood. And when he sinned, what's the first letter of Adam? Is Aleph, right? When he sinned, Hashem dressed him up with the next three letters of the alphabet. When he betrayed Hashem, Bagad, he dressed him up with the Beged, clothing. Vayas lo kutonet or. Hashem sewed them clothing or skin that's very much like the skin of a snake. You know, skin of a snake, it's removed all the time. It's constantly dies and renewed. That's our skin. Every moment, trillions of cells dies and renewed. And at the end, just like the snake remove its all skins and die, so mankind come back to the earth. Adam is come from Adama. You know, Adama in Hebrew and Gematria is 50. Originally, Adam understood all the 50 gates of wisdom, everything that's godly. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that later too. King Solomon did not understand. He did not understand the red heifer. Only Moshe did. Moshe, by the way, if you rearrange the letters, Hashem. He was Ish HaElohim. He was an angel. Part angel, part human. Shamayim va'aretz. When God told Adam, I'm placing you in the heaven. Everything I'm doing until Friday, right? He says, only on Friday, Hashem says, Vayar Elohim, again from the word light. And he saw that everything that he did, Hine tov me'od. This is the only day Hashem adds another words to good, in very good. Tov me'od. Our sages would say he was not talking about Adam and Chava. He was talking about Yetzer Hara. He says because Yetzer Hara exists, that's why it says Vayitzer. Hashem created Adam with two Yud. The word Vayitzer and created. There's two kinds of creation. There's creation that made out of something, and there's a created bara that's created out of nothing. Yesh me'ayin ve'yesh mi'yesh. When God created mankind, He created for something that existed in this earth, so to speak, in the heaven, right? Vayitzer has two yud, Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Hatov, good and evil inclination, to give Adam the choice. Hashem never ever, even if it's own creation, the best creation that He created in day 6, He gave a choice. Meaning that for us there is a choice. There's always this choice. Hashem says, choose the life, choose the blessings, choose the Torah. Otherwise, there's no other choices. There's either this or that. Either the curse or the blessing. Very simple. He says, Vayere Vayiboker Yom HaShishi. So now, God is finishing everything and He gives the most important thing in order to seal the creation with the word Shabbat. Shabbat, Hashem says, Hashem, stopped everything on Shabbat. Vayachulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzevam. Everything that I've done in the heaven and earth, and all the militaries that I created, all the galaxies, you know, there's a secret of how many galaxies exist in the world. And it's in the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, in Tracket of Blessings, 32:2. If you go to this, you'll see how Hashem created the galaxies and all the legion of what we call Tzvaot Hashamayim. You go and you, if you can, I won't think you'll be able to because nobody did yet. There's no numbers to describe what God created as far as numbers, as far as quantity. It comes to 01.19, meaning that there's 10 to the power of 19. There's 19 zeros. There's no number like this. But that's God revealed to us how many galaxies He created in the Tracket of Brachot. And He says, even Hashem, stopped everything. He says, on the 7th day, Vaychal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. I wasn't done, Hashem says. I took a break. And He says, Asher bara Elohim la'asot, meaning I gave you the tools to continue to create. Everything that I've done until 6 days and finished on the 6 days, I rested on the 7, but la'asot, I gave you the tools to continue to create in the future. Hence, today we have everything that we have, the technology and everything that we can do today. It's already been established in day one, established in the first 6 days. Because all that we see today, technology and everything, came from this world, right? Everything that you see today, it's here, meaning that God gave us the ability to shine the light on it to see where we can really find it and how to do it. We are obligated, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to us, stop, rest on Shabbat. Even I, Hashem, that managed this whole creation, stopped. Who are you not to stop? It's very interesting. If you look at Kiddush, if you pray Kiddush, Yom HaShishi vaychulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzeva'am, you'll see that if you take the second Yud from Yom HaShishi, you count every 7 letter was spelled the people of Israel, Israel. Everything was created for the people of Israel. The Shabbat is the gift from the heaven. We are the only nation that has the ability to restore every week, to recharge every week, and to stop everything, and to come to a blessed week thereafter. I hope for all of you to understand the gravity of Bereshit, in a sense that even God, with almighty creations, rested on Shabbat, and only then we can understand what Hashem's purpose is for us and where our purpose is here to be fulfilled for Hashem. So Be'ezat Hashem, I want to wish all of you a great new year, a year of many beginnings, hopefully beginnings of mitzvot and beginnings of Shmirat Shabbat, keeping the Shabbat, and understand that Hashem really wants us close to Him, nothing else. He would not ever do anything to harm us unless we harm ourselves. So please join us every day. Kolel Ahavat Israel. Again, I want to say thank you to partners in Torah, Mr. and Mrs. Selwyn, Icicle. I want to thank all of you for sharing the classes online with us and distributing to your friends and groups. God bless you all. Have a wonderful Shana Tova, and Be'ezat Hashem, we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Rabbi Dahan from Kolel Ahavat Israel. I thank you, and the class will be posted on our website, neshatorah.org. By the way, we have a new edition of our 7 books available on our website. If you want to spread some more Torah, God bless you, and thank you for helping us and supporting the Kolel Ahavat Israel in San Diego. Thank you so much.